Welcome into another episode of George in the Jungle, presented by Remington Tavern. You can find Remington Tavern at 8892 Glendale Milford Road, 45140, where they have daily happy hours from 3 to 7 p.m., $5 Woodford Wednesdays. You can check them out on Instagram at Remingtav Cincy. That's Remitav Cincy with a Y, or follow them on Facebook. And with that, Chad and George, the Bearcats, drop another one, this time to Oklahoma, at Oklahoma in overtime. They were up 13 in the second half, and wasn't enough.
Gonna need that Woodford Wednesday to get over this one.
Can I have some? I think I just got a little bit of Four Roses. There's not a lot of bourbon in the house right now. I got a little bit of New Riff, the double malt, and then a little bit of Four Roses. And I don't think it's enough.
No, it's not. It's not. And now, you look, well, what's you see now? 4 and 8 in Big 12 games decided by 5 points or less.
Yep.
That's obviously been an issue with this team. Fouling has been an issue. You can say refs this, refs that, but that string of fouls in the second half on 3-point shooters was ridiculous. A couple of them were super ridiculous, and you just can't bleed points like that in a close game, and they bled a lot at the free throw line.
Yeah, I mean,
self-inflicted. You have that segment in the first half where you've got a good lead and you turn it over 5 times in 7 possessions. Second half, you foul 4 3-point shooters. You give them 12 points. You just hand it to them in a game that you should be controlling, in a segment where, other than you fouling them, they couldn't score. Like, look, I know everybody's mad about the refs. Do I think the refs were good tonight? No, I don't know. Did I think Jizzle got fouled on that drive at the end of overtime? Yeah, I do. But he got fouled a couple times. But you were good enough without the self-inflicted wounds to win this game regardless of what happened. And they shot themselves in the foot like 10 times on dumb shit. And when you do that, you're going to lose on the road in this league. Look, the officials are bad. They're going to be bad. Don't expect them to be good. Whatever. Play better. Don't do there's mistakes that are mental mistakes from players in the moment that are being made that are costing the team games. And tonight was the epitome of it.
Yeah, it seemed to happen numerous times. You could point to possessions in that game. And I don't understand how they can play defense so well for so long and then end up blowing the possession by fouling. And, I'm thinking of the Newman foul on the 3 where there's a couple seconds left on the shot clock. My God, just let the guy hoist it.
Tap your feet, close out.
Yep,
like, be fundamental, be sound.
Exactly. And then several times, if UC could get a stop late in that game, they would have had Oklahoma in a real hole, and they weren't able to do it. And then that inbounds play, and, okay, give Oklahoma credit for that. But you can't give up that corner 3 on that inbounds. And yeah, okay, it was a good play, but there's just got to be a way that you stop that stuff and know that stuff might be coming.
I don't think they defended that play horribly. I think the guy made a pretty contested shot, but the problem was he caught it clean, George. I think that's where you're getting it was contested, but he caught it clean and was able to catch and get a look.
Yes.
Even though the closeout came. So there are people, there was a hand in his face. Well, sometimes a hand in your face isn't a good closeout because the guy caught it clean and had a chance to actually set himself and be in rhythm.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, there's it's very bothersome that they can't close out these close games, and they've lost more than their share of them. I think 4 and 8 in games decided by 5 points or less. And that's killer right now. That's killer. They win tonight. Then a win Saturday, and you're thinking, okay, a game or two in the Big 12 tournament, you got a chance to get in the field. But now, boy, that chance is pretty much gone.
Yeah, I don't know. It's frustrating. I think that tonight kind of summed the season up. As
I mean,
we
they shot 20% from three. They were under 40% from the floor. They had stretches of turning it over too much. The other team shot a shit ton of free throws and made them all. George, if West can't figure out how to get this team to play better free throw defense,
yeah,
what are we doing?
Yeah,
Nobody misses free throws against the Bearcats. Just once. When's the last time somebody shot under 75% against Cincinnati? I'm curious.
Yeah.
Where's Geoff?
It seems like it never happens. But I also felt like, I mean, my God, how many threes did you see hoist and what they end up with? Was it 6 of 30 or 6 of 29?
6 of 29. Yep.
I didn't mind most of them, though, George. They were off good offense. The way Porter Mosher's defense is, here's the problem. They make you shoot them out of the way that they play. So if you're going to space them, you got to hit some. They did early.
Right.
And it worked. And it helped. They got out in transition. They spaced them. And then, you know what? It felt like that the two from John and Jizzle happened in the middle of the second half, and then you didn't get another one until way late. Like they just couldn't. They got good looks, rhythm looks that you want guys to take, and then you miss all of them. Like I don't know. I mean, I don't think it was the wrong guys shooting. I think the guys you want shooting got shots open, didn't go in.
Yeah, I mean,
anytime Day-Day's the guy shooting a three, that's the wrong guy shooting.
That is the wrong.
That was
guy.
in the first half. I don't think he take one in the second half?
Late. Not the guy that you want shooting.
You are wrong, Aaron. He did not shoot any in the second half.
But I don't think he hit the rim on one in the first half, did he?
Yeah, he was 0-2 in the first half. He didn't take any in the second half.
It was 2 air balls.
He took one in overtime. He took one in overtime. That's why that might be what you're thinking about, Aaron.
Late. Yeah.
Late. Yeah. Overtime. Gotcha.
I don't know. I mean, if you, as George was talking about, we shot too many threes. If you were driving, you weren't getting the foul call. So I don't know. It's just a rough night.
You know, though, it does seem like the Day-Day and Jizzle both have that really good mid-range jumper. I would like to see them maybe concentrate a little more on that. And I know that's not the going fad in college basketball right now, but that's their strength, you know, driving to the hoop and taking that mid-range jumper. And I don't know. I was throwing that out there that maybe that would have been a better option tonight than standing around out there and hoisting threes. And, you know, in some instances, they don't hit anything, and others, they just climb off the rim. I mean,
I'm not saying I disagree with you, George. I'm saying against that defense, getting downhill is difficult if you don't soften them up. If you shoot 20%, they're not going to respect your three-point shooting, and they're going to cut off your driving lanes and make it really, really challenging.
And I don't know. I don't know when the last bucket Lukosius made in that game was, but I don't know if he made a shot after early in the game.
He had 8 at the very beginning, and then he made the 2 free throws down the stretch, and that was it.
Right.
He had 3 shots to win, 3 shots to take the lead late, and none of them connected, which, you know, he's been your guy to make them, but then they switched it up. They went to Jizzle. Jizzle missed a pretty standard layup. Yeah, it was contested a little bit. And then the one he got fouled, I thought he got fouled on, but they went to Jizzle twice and he missed layups.
Yeah, just when I was, you know, about the time in the second half, I was thinking, man, this is kind of nice because Day-Day and Jizzle both were making, you know, converting the layups. They really were at a pretty nice clip. I think at halftime, UC was like 8 of 10 on what was considered layups.
It ended up 15 of 29, George.
Went away.
They missed 14 layups on the game.
So they must have missed a ton in the second half
Yep.
and overtime.
Yep, and they only had one dunk.
Jizzle did finish 7 of 14 and somehow still finished minus 12.
Well,
Insane.
yeah. I mean, I guess when you go up 13 early in the game like that, he wasn't in the game at that point, probably. If he was, maybe just a little bit. But yeah, that's going to happen.
You would hope it doesn't.
No, yeah, you hope it doesn't. You hope it doesn't.
You would hope the guy that was your leading scorer wasn't minus 12 for the game. That's usually a bad sign, George.
Very bad sign. But yeah, I don't know. It's been a frustrating season, and that game was just a very frustrating game because down the stretch you could just feel it happening because of what I said, where every time they had a chance to get a stop and really put Oklahoma in a hole that would be tough to get out of, they couldn't do it. And this team prides itself on defense, and that defense was, as the announcer kept saying, stifling for a lot of the shot clock. But you can't put a team on the line as much as they did tonight. You just can't. And if the refs are blowing calls, you got to adjust to that. You got to figure it out. And they didn't.
I wonder how much Dan's hip was bothering him because 0 for 6 on wide open looks. I feel like every time he shot a three, it was wide open, and to go 0 for 6 from behind the arc for him is rare. Although maybe it's just he doesn't play well against Oklahoma. I mean, he had some bonehead turnovers.
Yeah. Well, everybody in that one little stretch, it was like everybody, they played great for 8 minutes, and then they just lost their mind for 4 minutes. And then when you do that, all of a sudden you can't get the momentum back. Luckily, Jizzle or Day made the layup at the buzzer to get them the lead back at the half. But and then they go out and they jump back out big again to start the second half.
Right.
And then it's the same thing. It just that's when the 4 fouled 3-point shooters in 4 minutes or whatever it was. You don't stand a chance. If you give them 12 points, you can't give your opponent 12 points in like a 5-minute stretch.
No, and it feels like there's just been too darn many games like that this year where you feel like, how many games do they have that you feel like they should have won that got away? And that concerns me.
That's so random. The thing about that, George, is it's so random that a lot of times, the next year it'll play itself back out the other way.
Right.
Just keep yourself in this league, keep yourself in close games, and the numbers will even themselves out.
Yeah, it's kind of like 1-run losses in baseball. They usually seems to. I remember a few years ago the Reds lost a ton of them, and then the next year they won a ton of them. So yeah, it is kind of random, but man, oh man, it on a night like this, you'd like to have an answer for that.
I had this up here. I thought Darth Turd was pretty funny as a nickname. But he shot 3 more free throws. He shot 3 more free throws alone than UC shot the whole game.
Don't make me spit this thing.
Woof.
Well, they
one
go
guy shooting 14 free throws. It's one guy shooting a lot of free throws.
So you got West Virginia. What are we sitting at? 6-11 now, and the Big 12 is what the record is.
Yeah.
So get the 7, but is there any
It
hope?
ain't going to be easy, George, because they're not making the tournament. Stop.
What if they won 3 games in the Big 12 tournament?
Stop.
What if they won 4?
If they win the Big 12, they can make it to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, exactly.
If they win 2 games in the Big 12 tournament, that's 2 more in a row than they've won the entire conference play slate.
Yeah. And that's why I didn't feel very good about this after last week. Really, after Oklahoma State, that was the death knell. Losing that game at home was kind of the death knell for me.
Yeah.
That's where you knew it was trouble.
I'll go back to the West Virginia loss, but
yeah, that one hurt. That one hurt. To be up the way they were late in that game, 10 minutes with what, under 6 or 10 points under 6 to play or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, you can't let that happen.
Well, do we want to break down players and what they did?
Sure.
Why not?
We might as well get a Galactic Fried Chicken read in here.
Yeah.
Since we're www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Download the app. Go to the website. They will bring it right to your front door pretty much anywhere inside the 275 loop. Or head down to Dayton, Kentucky. Tell them to pump it up and save yourself 15% off of the Galactic goodness. It is out of this world.
Leave it up for a bit. Leading all scores tonight, Jizzle James, arguably his best offensive night of the season, 7 of 14 from the floor, 2 of 4 behind the arc. Only 1 rebound, though, only 1 assist, only 1 foul. 28 minutes played, 2 steals, minus 12.
Yeah.
It's a wild stat line.
It really is. That's incredible.
There were moments he was electric.
Fran Fraschilla could not say his name enough.
Jizzle, 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 jizzle.
He jizzled all over the place.
He had a nice game in my book.
Still minus 12, George.
I like that kid.
I do
Minus 12 is not necessarily all on him, though.
No, I didn't walk away from this one feeling like I watched him get picked on as I have in some other games. I mean, they more kind of picked on people at different times with his ability as a bigger, like jumbo type wing type guy that kind of gets to the rim and slithers on you. I mean, I didn't feel like I watched Jizzle play a bad game defensively, even though he's at the minus 12.
Well, they kept Milos Uzan in check. He had a horrendous game.
And he kept making dumb fouls regularly. Like every time they put him back in, foul, back out, son. Go sit down.
Yeah.
The refs hated him as much as the Bearcats.
But I mean, with that dude in foul trouble and the other dude on the bench and couldn't play, that was a golden opportunity they let slide away.
It was. You also stole one.
Chances.
You stole one 3 days ago when you had your leading scorer out, and you know that's this league, man. I know people get tired of hearing it, but look around. Like that's what this league is every night. It's stupid.
Yeah, it's tough.
If you do dumb shit, you're gonna get beat. Like that's you don't get away. Well, I think that's another part of where we've been for the last 10 years. People got used to getting away with, we don't have to be perfect. We just got to be okay, and we're good because we have more talent because this is a bad league.
Right.
That doesn't work in this league. You play well or you put yourself in position where they make a shot and you miss a shot and you lose. That's every game being decided by 5 points. Like, there's no rhyme or reason. Sure, some guys are better than others, but guess what? Steamos has been elite at closing out games this year, and he missed 3 of those shots tonight.
Yeah, he did.
That's what I go to when I talk about, like, it evens out.
He didn't have a great shooting night, 3 of 10. I mean,
no, he was great from the start, and then he had a bunch of, like, that elbow jumper he had at the end of regulation to take the lead was, you want him to take that shot 100 times out of 100. Pull up at the elbow unguarded from 15, game on the line, you'll take that every time.
Yeah, you got to get more out of these inside guys, though.
It's not enough. Z's with 3, Jamil with 6.
Right. Yeah, that wasn't good. Henceforth, all that hoisting from the outside. It's a shame. I just feel like they're a better team than what this record is and where they're at. I know the Big 12's tough and all that, but when you have these games just slip away, and then I'm talking West Virginia, Oklahoma State at home, Oklahoma at home. Those home games really hurt now. You back yourself.
Yeah, we've been talking about that since they happened.
What's that?
We've been talking about that since they happened.
Yeah, well,
you didn't do a good enough job in the first 6 games of taking advantage of opportunities to get ahead of the sticks. And you got behind the sticks, and you're constantly fighting out of quicksand. Constantly.
Yeah.
I think at the end of regulation, I would like to see them try to go down the lane and shoot a 2 instead of the CMOS 3. You weren't hitting 3s all night. And I think I would have rather seen
CMOS's last shot was a pull up from the elbow that Aziz rebounded and ended up going to the foul line.
CMOS didn't have a good night. I would have rather seen one of the point guards try and drive, is what I'm saying.
Okay. He was wide open from 15 feet. He got downhill, like you're asking. He pulled up from 15 feet, had a wide open shot. You probably wanted John Newman to stop shooting when he was 0 for 6 from 3, and then he hit 2.
Yes.
And sparked a run. That's if you're open, shoot. If guys can't shoot when they're open, guys that are your best players or your top of roster guys, then all of this is irrelevant.
If you're having a bad night, I think it's okay to have a bad night.
He had a wide open look from 15 that was drawn for him. And he missed it, and Aziz got the rebound. And he went to the free throw line.
I would have liked it.
Your point was you don't want him shooting a 3 at the end. He did.
I would have liked it to been drawn up for one of the guys who had success driving the lane.
Day was 4 for 11. Jizzle was 7 for 14. They both missed. They drew up plays for them, and they missed layups late. I don't know what else. What else is what if you can't. He did what you wanted to do. The guys missed layups.
Those two guys,
the thing that has worked, and the guy missed.
Those two guys were 50% from 2 the entire. Well, Jizzle may have been 50% from 2 the entire game. Those two guys. CMOS was, I guess he was what, 1 of 2. He was also 50% at 1 of 2.
50%, yeah. So eat it, Aaron.
2 of 8 those shooting 3s.
Look, they got him a play going downhill with a rebounder in position for a chance to take the lead with 3 seconds left. I'll take that all day, every day.
No,
You've won 6 Big 12 games. He's won 4 of them with plays like that.
Tonight he was cold.
He had been cold in other games and still made that shot.
I didn't like the play.
Did you like the play where they drew up layups that missed for the 2 guys who wanted the ball?
Higher profile or higher percentage shots. Yes. I like those better than CMOS. I like those. I still like those better than CMOS shooting a 15-footer every day and twice on Sundays.
Okay.
I don't want to gang up on you, Aaron, but I don't have a problem with that shot that CMOS took. And
that's fair. It's fair.
Have his best night. He didn't have his best night, but man, when you've got a guy like that and he just won you a game over the weekend, you rely on those guys. And Dan wasn't exactly tearing it up either.
He was fouled out at that point, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was long gone, I think, at that point. But I'm just saying you got to rely on someone, and he's the guy they've been relying on here lately as the season's gone along. And then he's kind of earned that right to get those looks. You just
And like I said, they drew up 2 plays for Jizzle, and he missed both layups. One of them, I think he clearly got fouled. I'm not saying don't do that. They did that, and they didn't score any points off that either. Like, it wasn't like they just went to CMOS over and over and over again, and the well was dry.
right.
They went to other guys. The other guys also missed shots.
Yeah.
Somebody has to take and make the shot. None of them did tonight.
At least it wasn't a 3 they drew up there, Aaron.
I agree. Well, because I think that you, in that situation with plenty of time left, and granted, Oklahoma made everything from the free throw line. I still think that your odds are better on a night where you're literally hitting 1 of every 5 threes. You don't have enough time to shoot 5 of them before Oklahoma is going to get to the free throw line. So I don't know. I like the idea of going for 2, seeing what happens at the free throw line, and going back to either have to hit a 3 or try and go for 2 to either win or tie.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about this one. That just
Well, I got plenty more to say.
Oh,
Aziz hitting 1 of 2 free throws in maybe the biggest moment of the season for him. I thought was he needed to hit 1. Obviously would have loved if he hit 2. I was nervous that he wasn't in. He hit the back end of it, which
right.
Yeah.
is
The worst way to
arguably
do it.
First one, I
For
thought,
my
well,
sanity.
there it goes. They better crash the boards here.
He also had 3 blocks in this one. Only 3 points, but that 3rd point came at a crucial time. 6 rebounds. Defensively, though, I thought that he disrupted so much more than what shows up on the stat line tonight, and I thought that he was a force down low, honestly.
He was good defensively. I agree with George though. Like, you got to get more than 9 from Jamil and Sema, or Jamil and Aziz. You got to get more than 9.
I just feel like they're camped out front too many times too, and I know that's how they run this offense and all. But man, and he's not going to be the guy doing post moves. Trust me.
Right? You want him in the post, like ceiling guys, George?
No, he's not going to do that.
You also don't want the lobs. You don't want too many lobs, George. We all know that.
He'll try to do that a few times.
1 of 1 tonight, Aaron. 1 of 1.
I love 1. I don't love 5. I thought Jamil played fairly well tonight, though, with the minutes he had. 18 minutes. I feel like he made his presence felt during those 18 minutes. Although in 18 minutes, 4 fouls is an awful lot of fouls.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt about that.
Defensively, he struggled tonight. He was not good guarding. He was all right on the glass defensively, was not good guarding tonight. I don't know. He's got to be able to command position when he's down there and get more than 6 points. Like, he's down there a lot. They don't use him nearly like they use Aziz. When Aziz is in, it's a lot more, keep Aziz out of the lane, because you're not going to throw it to him unless he's rolling or in a position to catch a lob. Like, you don't want him down there just taking up space for the heck of it. Jamil, he's not great on defense. So if he's in there, you need offense from him. And he doesn't set great screens either.
Right. Yeah, you're right. If he's not going to get down there and give you something down low offensively, then he's not going to be a lot of help. And Bandego is just a completely different kind of player. He's not a guy you can post up down there. As we found out earlier this season when
Right.
tried to do that and looked like he was on roller skates.
we've kind of touched on Dan here and there, but good to see Dan back. I'll say that. Coming off the hip injury, 13 points, 9 rebounds. In a nutshell, that's those are good numbers, but 14 shots to get 13 is an awful lot of shots. He did have 3 steals. He's credited with 2 turnovers. I feel like he was involved in more than 2 turnovers, whether it was on the receiving end or the passing end or whatever else he had going on. I don't know. He just
that stuff really. What the hell? It was like, just don't try to pass it to Dan because no one could get it to him. That was so bizarre.
It was weird.
And it was different players.
I think
it was so weird.
I think he was reading something they weren't reading. Like, I think those are kind of option stuff.
Right.
Where the offense, the base of the offense is he's there in the corner for that kick out 3.
Correct.
But they weren't guarding him at all.
Right.
So he was able to get a free run on a baseline cut to the rim, but instead they were throwing it to the corner where he was theoretically supposed to be. I'm interested to talk to some people about that because I think Dan probably read the play right. If there's nobody around, cut to the rim.
It sure looked like he had opportunities when he was cutting, but they were throwing the ball to the corner. It was weird that it happened. And I think it was 3 times with 3 different guys. I think it was Thomas. It was
at least 2. Reynolds did it once. Aziz did it once, and Thomas did it once. There very well could have been a third that I just don't recall right now. But yeah,
like I said, I mean, I think the biggest thing about his stat line is just the fact that 14 shots and only 13 points. That's an awful lot of shots.
It's not very efficient, sir.
No.
Had 9 rebounds. I mean, you got to give him some credit for toughing it out if he does have this hip issue. And that one where he had to jump 3 straight times down there and ended up going to the free throw line where he got fouled. That was late in the game, and that was a big play at the time. Would have been bigger if he made both free throws, but he was 3 or 4 from the line for the game. So I can't.
Some of his shots were
for that.
Some of his shots were the craziest shots ever. Like the one where I feel like he did a 360 in the air just to put it off the glass as a tip in. Like,
oh yeah.
What are you even doing? How is your body moving that way when you have the coordination of a baby giraffe? But I don't, and he had another offensive rebound. I think it was late in the first half, if I'm not mistaken. He had an offensive rebound that he just came out of nowhere to get, as there's like 3 guys on the floor, and just put back. I don't know, just some of the things he does are magical. Some games you have what Dan are we even calling good Dan at this point? Because I feel like it was like Dayton Dan and Baylor Dan in the same game. It's become more of a normal thing than just having one Dan at this point. But I don't know.
Yeah. Very disappointing. Talk about football. Remember when that was disappointing?
Oh man. Yes.
Me too.
I guess one last player I want to talk about before we move off the players. I guess we haven't talked about John either. But Josh Reed gets 12 minutes, goes 0 for 1, 2 rebounds, 1 turnover, 1 block, -6 on the night. I still feel like Josh has to find a way to make himself offensively present.
Yeah, I would agree. It seems like other than wasting threes, there's not a lot there.
I don't think it's lack of effort. I just think that he doesn't know how to fit into this offense. And I don't know if that's a confidence thing at this point. I would assume so, because I certainly doubt that there's a lack of coaching in regard to Josh Reed.
I think a lot of it is just fit, like what you're being asked to do. He's being asked to come in and defend. He has got to find, and it took John some time really to figure this out. As when you're that guy that's like, okay, we need you to come in and give us, 4 minutes as hard as you can defending their best player because we're going to sit John down or whatever. When you're on the floor, you're not thinking offense. Like we've talked about it a bunch. Like he's not shot ready at times. He's not looking to score. And some of that I think is you're trying to like fill a secondary role. And you're trying not to play outside of that secondary role. Like, nobody wants to be the guy that comes in for 4 minutes and shoots like 3 airball, 3 bad threes. Guess what? You're not going to play if you come in and do that when your role is kind of don't screw it up on offense and help us on defense while this guy gets rest. And then the media timeout is coming and you're coming out. He's going back in. Like your role is kind of like, don't screw up on this end. Help us on this end. Do what you're really good at on this end. And don't screw up on the other end. Rashad Bishop had some of that early in his career. John has had some of that. Like, I think it's just, Rashad was a little different because they didn't have a lot of dudes when Mick got Rashad, so he had to play.
Right.
But again, we've talked about it a bunch of times. Josh has got to find comfort in like, you're out there. If you get an open shot, you got to be shot ready and like ready to make the other team pay for not really like tagging you or making you part of the scouting report.
There's one game left in the regular season, and we have seen zero growth offensively out of Josh Reed, though. I would think that we would have seen something, anything. I feel like we are the gif of the little stick man poking the guy on the ground with a stick. Like, are you going to move? What are you doing? And I just want to see something out of him.
I think that's a fair assessment of what we've seen out of him this year. And I get what his role is, but
I'm just saying mentally, it's hard to play outside of that when that is your role. He's not being like Jizzle's being asked to come in and play offense, right? Like it's easy to be free in that role when, hey, here's the ball. We need you to go get us some buckets. I think it's a lot harder to be free in that role. You have to learn how to do it. And Josh has not
learned how to go inside the arc.
He's being asked right now to do what he has done. Like it is what it is, Aaron. Like I agree that like some of that stuff annoys you a little bit, but he also hasn't shown the propensity to be able to dribble in traffic. Like if you need him to try to do that.
There. I just thought you were going to end the sentence there and dribble.
Well, like especially in traffic. Like he's not a guy that's gonna shot fake you on an open three and like straight line drive to the rim. At this point,
and I get that.
He needs to add that into his game because it's going to make him more of a factor. Right now, his role on offense is to catch and shoot three.
I would just love to see him catch. I'd love to see him catch a backdoor or something just to put it up off the glass. Easy two, nothing to it. I think it would catch everyone off guard.
Sure.
Draw the end of the game play up for Josh Reed. You're going to catch everyone sleeping.
You know how much squat would be doing if they'd done that?
Aaron, if you're dating someone that's 5'2", but you prefer chicks that are 5'7", you're not going to keep waking up every day expecting her to be 5'7", are you?
I've never given.
You might wake up every day hoping she's 5'7", but she's still going to be 5'2", brother.
Height was never a thing that I really cared about.
That's as nice as I could put what I wanted to say.
I know.
So flipping that over on players, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, Jizzle offensively, obviously that's his thing, but I think he is getting better defensively. I
There
saw
are
him get
still some
off
things
tonight.
that-
That might have been when they were in that zone. I can't remember if he was in or not, but they went to that zone a couple times.
It was only, I mean, it was a couple
But,
plays.
I mean, he's got the tools to do it. He's got the tools to be elite in my book. I'm not sure, he's young, but I think he'll get there.
Right now, the main problem is he gets caught on too many screens.
Mhm.
And that is something, if you watch the rest of those guys defend, they do a really good job avoiding the screen.
Right.
And Jizzle is not at that point yet. He's getting there. He's gotten better at it.
Yeah, I think he
is not nearly as bad at it as he was 3-4 weeks ago, where literally there were teams that he would come in, they would give the ball to whoever he's guarding and just go ball screen and decimate Cincinnati's defense.
And that's why
that is getting better. It's getting
Right.
better. It's not great yet, but it's improving, George, which is why he's seen more minutes.
And minutes in crunch time too, because for a while there, everyone's like, why in the world is he out of the game in the last 5 minutes? Well, that's why. But now I think they can trust him more down the stretch of these games.
People are bitching about Wes. Whatever. I do want to go back to something that Mike Boynton said when Oklahoma State was here. And we asked him in the post-game press conference about this league and how it can beat you down. And he made a great point that I think could really resonate with some people right now that are listening. Did you remember this point, George?
Fire it at me.
He had coached in the Big 12 for 7 years with Bob Huggins. In those 7 years, Bob Huggins finished last in the Big 12 twice. Last. Not middle of the pack, not scrapping and clawing. He got his ass kicked twice in this league and finished last. It's not what people want to hear, but it's a very thin line in this league. You do something like you let 2 home wins get away, like we talked about at the beginning of the conference schedule. You are scratching and clawing and fighting from behind. You know why? Because ultimately, you're going to play Iowa State and Houston at home, the top 2 teams in the league. And you're going to lose.
Bob just thought he was in Columbus. It's not his fault.
He thought he was in the Big Ten.
He was still an avid recycler at that point.
He thought he was still in the Big East. He didn't even know he was in the Big 12 at that point. But like, there's a lot of good coaches that have had seasons where they've had a bunch of close losses. Guess what? Go look at a couple of these teams from last year that were at the bottom of the league and found their way up to the middle towards the top. Why? Some of it is just the nature of playing a shit ton of close basketball games from late December through mid-March. And there's not a lot of separation between these teams. I mean, I've told you this, Aaron. We talked about this a bunch of times. The reason the Oklahoma stuff annoys me is because I think Oklahoma is the team. So I think there's 2 teams that are probably most like Cincinnati in this league. Central Florida and Oklahoma. Neither team really has a star. They rely on kind of that ebb and flow of, we got a bunch of good players in this league, but I don't think any of these 3 teams are going to have an all-conference type guy. Like, I think those 3 teams are in about the same realm of like where their roster is at.
Yeah.
And they beat Central Florida twice. Close games. I'm sure Central Florida fans are pissed that they lost both of those games to Cincinnati.
If you saw anything on social media regarding Central Florida.
And Cincinnati fans are pissed they lost both of those games to Oklahoma because you know what happened? Central Florida fans walked out of those 2 games against Cincinnati going, we should have won both of those games.
Now the difference,
and they might be right.
The difference between Central Florida and Cincinnati is Central Florida wants to extend Johnny Dawkins. All the fans want to extend Johnny Dawkins, whereas Cincinnati fans are calling for Wes's head.
Well, yeah, but that's expectations. Like this for Central Florida is as good as they've ever played in basketball, being 6-11 in the league, whatever it is. Like Cincinnati fans have different expectations. That's not,
Sure.
but you get my point. Like that's how this league is. Like you feel like that's a team that's like us, and we should at least split, right? We should at least play Oklahoma and split with Oklahoma because we're kind of the same team. You get them home and away, you've got a chance to like make something happen, and you don't. But then you play Central Florida, and like I said, Central Florida is sitting at 6-11 and thinking, we should have beat Cincinnati twice. And we'd be at 8 wins, and we'd be playing Saturday for 9 wins and a chance to go 500 in the best league in America. So it's frustrating. It's going to take continuous adjustment to get used to, but not every game that is decided by 2 points is not an indictment that you have to fire your coach. You know how guys, I was like this with Dusty Baker. At times I was like this with Marvin, even though eventually with Marvin, it became clear that like, it's been 15 years and nothing's happened. Like, let's do something different. The easy answer, and we see it all around America right now. Your team plays bad, fire the coach. Fuck that guy. Get him out of here. Fire him. Fire him. Get his ass out of here.
Everyone loves that solution, but then when it happens, you're starting over again. And obviously Cincinnati started over twice here in the past, whatever it's been, 5 years, 6 years. And that makes it even tougher. And, you look at the job Wes did in Greensboro, and it took him a while to get traction there. You kind of hoped. And I'm not saying there's learning on the job going on here. There's probably learning. I don't even know if I can say there's learning at the level at all. I wouldn't say that. But it just takes time to get the program to the point where they can be good enough to win night in and night out in a league like this. And to think that's just going to happen because you signed 3 guys out of the portal and brought in a couple freshmen, that's not going to happen. And it's going to take a while. And all these coaches say that. I don't want to make excuses for, like, there's some things that may bother me where the team's playing well in a stretch and I see a substitution and it drives me up a wall. Sure. But there are other reasons for that too, because, it's funny because no one ever expects any of these kids to need rest during a game. They're 21 years old.
They're robots.
They never need rest. But when you're sitting down and guarding for 30 seconds at that end of the floor and playing your butt off and trying to hang with a guy and fight through screens and do all, I'm sorry. I don't care how old you are. You're going to get tired. It makes me tired just watching it.
So, Jared, what's the answer? You fire Wes, okay? The roster leaves. You start over. How long then? Another 2, 3, 4 years? Like that's the route. Or you have a roster that has played in 12 tight games in Big 12 out of 17. And you flush that down the toilet. Now it's gone. Now you start over. How many years is that going to take to build back up in this league? Bill Self ain't coming to Cincinnati. Jay Wright, you're not hiring Jay Wright out of retirement to come to Cincinnati. Like, come on. It's lazy and it's dumb. If this team was getting their teeth kicked in every night, sure, it's time to start talking about maybe they're headed in the wrong direction. It's not what's happening. A roster is being built. A foundation is being built for long-term success. People wanted to run Mick out at this point in his tenure. 3 years. He can't do it. He sucks in the best league in America.
First year in this conference.
Right.
Like, you can't compare this situation in Cincinnati to Houston. It's not apples to apples. I mean, how long did Kelvin put his
Well, yeah.
program together? He won a national championship from the American.
Who?
Kelvin?
No, Houston.
No, he
They
didn't.
got
He
the
didn't
Final
win.
Four.
Sorry,
got to a
Final
Final
Four.
I was like, what did I miss?
It's
Shit.
It's been a,
We're
Yeah,
just
my
handing
gears-
out
my
national
gears were
championships right
grinding,
now.
man.
it's been a long day.
My,
But he
my gears were
he-
grinding. I'm
he-
like, how the hell did I
he-
miss that? Was it the COVID?
he had
year?
a lot of success in the American. Is my point.
Correct.
And
His program was like reaching its pinnacle in the American.
before he was even in the Big 12.
Correct.
Well,
So-
it would be like if Cincinnati got into the Big 12 in like 2017, when they had been building and building and building and building and building, and then they went into the Big 12, and they would have had Gary and Jake and Jaron and Trey, and they would have been a lot more ready for this. They didn't get that luxury. That didn't happen here.
So,
You had
I
2
don't know.
years of recruiting to the American, and then all of a sudden, hey, better get your ass ready to go in the best league in America. They've had one bad game in 17 games. The TCU game is really the only game you can look at and go, they really shit the bed there. We let that one get away from them. So, or eventually, is this a conversation we can have next year? No. The conversation changes next year. The foundation has been built. You go into this offseason knowing what the Big 12 is like, knowing what's expected of you, knowing what your needs are, what you have to add to this roster to get over the hump in the Big 12. But guess what? And here's what we don't want to hear. We will be having those conversations regardless. All of those things might happen, and they could still be sitting at 8 and 9 in the Big 12 going into the final Saturday of the season, because that's what this league does to you. Whether you like to hear it or not.
It's tough sledding.
Well, it's the same. Like, everybody was thrilled to get in the Big 12 in basketball until you're in the Big 12.
I'll tell you. Well, no, I'm still thrilled about it because I love watching these games. Saturday night, I got every freaking dime's worth of my ticket watching that game. Even though it looked like they're going to blow that lead and blow the game. These games have been tremendous entertainment. They just, the result has not been great. And, Chad's right. When you lose all these close games and people zero in on the coach, and it's all this and it's all that, and why didn't he do this? And they get paid to take that criticism, and it's
sure
a lot of people are going to go after him.
My bank account ain't his bank account. I'd like if it was.
Right. Exactly. But we'll see. I mean, he's got to keep improving and building this thing, and next year is going to be a big year.
This year you showed we belong. We're good enough for this league. We are building in the right direction. Next year you got to get in the tournament. You got to be one of those teams that's in, you're closing out the regular season, not worrying about first four in, last four out.
Correct. No, they definitely need to get it done next year. And
I don't care if you're an 8, 9, 10 seed, whatever it is, like next year's the year you need to take a significant step. And I think everybody agrees with that, inside the program.
I don't want to think of the alternative.
Time to start looking around.
Oh my God. Yeah. Hey, I might be thumping that tub too. I don't know. But I do sense the program is being built back to where they can springboard and have some success. So I'm not ready to axe anybody yet. But we do have to see continued improvement. And it's tough to look at this season and say there was continued improvement, but all those close games with that high competition, would they have done that last year? No.
They didn't do that last year.
Right.
It was low competition and they didn't do it last year.
Exactly. Exactly. But there are some things they have to do, and hopefully they'll be able to get them done. I mean, they got to keep the
Well-
core of what they have. I don't know who's going to be able to contribute out of those new kids coming in, if anyone is right away. But, I don't know what kind of roster turnover they're going to end up with after this year.
Well, we'll find out soon enough. But until then,
I would say, if I had to guess, George, 3 transfer spots open. I'm not making predictions on who. I'm not making predictions on how. But if I had to guess, there are 3 scholarship spots open at some point between, whenever the portal opens and closes.
Right.
which
And
is
they just got to make sure they get
next
the right
week.
guys.
Well, the portal opens the Monday after Selection Sunday. So this weekend is the final regular season game. And then next weekend is the conference tournaments and Selection Sunday. And then that Monday is the portal is open. So what? 11 days? The portal opens in 11 days?
Crazy.
I'll tell you what,
Welcome to college sports 2024.
those coaches
So
made all that big money 10 years ago, 5 years ago. They had it made until this portal crap happened. Now I don't even know if that job's worth it with what they paid having to juggle all that stuff. And it's worse than football, but it's bad in basketball. I mean,
I just hate these windows opening while teams are still actively playing is the stupidest thing.
I mean, but I don't know that there's any other way to do it. Because the teams that are done, no, Aaron, the teams that are done, those players want in the portal. Those players are ready.
Schedule your season's games more appropriately to
what?
Schedule your season's games.
Aaron, when the NCAA tournament is set, okay, and the NIT is set on Sunday, these teams will be continuing to play. These teams are done, and their players want in the fucking portal. What do you do with them?
You tell them to wait the same way that the people who are still playing have to wait.
They don't have any control to tell anybody to do anything.
They don't. That's the issue.
That's the NCAA.
That's why we're where we are. That is why we are where we are.
They don't have the ability to say anybody, tell anybody no on anything.
And I always felt the same thing. And quite honestly, the schools need to take a little more control over this. And that's what the NCAA was supposed to be in the beginning. But it's like in football, when
they're also doing it too, though, is the problem.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they've been doing it with coaches for years. I mean, these kids play a season, then they're going to this bowl or that bowl, but their coach is leaving to go to somewhere else. And that I've never liked that. I have never liked that. And, you would like to think that the schools and the coaches would not like it enough either, that they would all come to some kind of agreement and put something in place that works that way.
But here's the problem, George. You're in the social media era, right? So let's say
I don't know if I am.
You're not good at it. I'll give you that. Let's say they decide the portal doesn't open until the end of the championship game. Championship games, midnight that night, the portal opens. Every kid whose season is over that intends to enter the portal is still going to put on their Twitter account, I am entering the portal. I am a free agent. They don't give a shit like what the NCAA says that they can or cannot do, who they can or cannot contact, what collectives they can talk to. There's nothing.
I know.
It sounds great on paper. It sounds great. But there's no, you've got, 68 NCAA tournament teams, 32 NIT teams.
They should be focused on finals, not the portal.
There's 100 teams. There's 370 college basketball teams. You got 270 teams worth of players that are done and ready to get to the next thing.
Correct.
And you're talking 3, 4, 5 players on all of those rosters are going to go into the portal. So you're looking at 1,000 kids just from that group that aren't involved in the NIT or the NCAA tournament. How can you force them not to declare their intentions and be legally tampered with?
No, you can't.
You can't. They're going to do it. I agree. I would like a clean way for this to happen, Aaron. They have just screwed this up so poorly that there's not a lot of walking it back. That's the football portal opens the day that the day after the football playoff selection show. It's the same thing.
Right.
1,815 players entered the transfer portal in 2023 for basketball.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. On those teams that didn't make the tournaments, either of those two tournaments, there's going to be 1,000+ players from those teams alone. And then you're going to have another 700-800 players from the teams that were in the NIT and the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, there's no stopping it now. You can't put that toothpaste back.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That shit, George, that's not in the that's not like a little squirt that's like on the counter. Like
Right.
the whole tube, it's just been squirted all over the bathroom.
And it happened all at once.
Yeah.
All at once.
It's my daughter getting a hold of the toothpaste.
Speaking of which, I meant to buy some today. I think I might be out. That's one thing I forgot at the store today was toothpaste. Now that we brought that up, I just thought of that.
He's milking his toothpaste like a cow, trying to get one toothbrush full.
Oh my God.
Well, let's switch gears since George was not present last night for football conversation. George, Chad was at practice yesterday. Did you have any questions in regards to football?
I read up everything Chad posted. I'm well informed. I watched,
So that's what I like to hear.
Yeah, I checked out all the interviews, all the sound after practice, and man, I'll tell you what, I like the sounds of how this quarterback looks. But it's going to be, we got to wait till these guys get in pads and do some things before we really see a lot of things. But it sounds like maybe they've got a pretty good handle on that position now. And I realized what they had to do last year, and they had to take a flyer. And I wish that would have worked out better, but it sounds like this kid might be a little more on the a little more accurate than what we were used to seeing last year.
I mean, I'm gonna withhold complete judgment until I see a live pass rush.
Right.
I saw somebody say their kid was at practice and Sorsby had a great pocket presence. I would hope so. They were doing 7-on-7 and 1-on-1s.
Yeah.
Like what?
If you're seeing ghosts, then that quarterback is.
I think he maybe took like 10 snaps of like 11-on-11, and that's not real. Like there's not a pass rush. They're not trying to even tag the quarterback or whatever at that point in time. So
right.
I don't want to get too far out over my skis, but I would just say this simply, George. The things I wanted to see, I saw. The what is his arm like on the deep ball? What is his touch like? What does he look like making reads and making those intermediate throws? What does he look like checking down and like leading a running back or understanding like the touch on some of the, the stuff that when you see on game day, all you see is a fan is the running back was tackled for a 2-yard loss. Well, he was tackled for a 2-yard loss because the quarterback threw the ball this way and he had to spin and get his bearings, and then the defense caught up. If the quarterback throws the ball this way with touch and the guy catches it and can turn upfield right away, even if it's a bad play, it might be a gain of 3.
Correct.
But that's the difference between a gain of 3 and a loss of 5.
Right.
He looked like he had the arm talent to do a lot of the different things. And we didn't see many of the different things in terms of our arm talent last year.
But you got to, based on what we were able to see when he played with Indiana, and you go into Penn State in your first start and you throw 3 touchdown passes there, you kind of got something, I think. I mean, that doesn't mean it's game, set, and match, but
right.
that kid probably is not easily rattled. I'll put it that way. And that's huge, obviously, at the quarterback position. And then you also had about the 3 safeties, which I was curious about, and I guess that's what we're going to see.
He looked yesterday. We'll see what he looks like tomorrow. We'll see what he looks like Thursday. And then when they come back from spring break and they start to put the pads on and they start to get after it a little bit more, then we'll get a better feel for things.
Right.
I had somebody say like they still don't look like, like a Big 12, like what we saw from Kansas and Iowa State and a couple of the teams that came into Nippert, West Virginia up there. Yeah, that's not something that's going to be instant. It's something that you have to continue to grind towards.
And Coach Satterfield admitted that.
I know. That's why I asked him.
Yeah,
because it's not, you're not just going to instantly, and like people think like it's such an easy crutch. I think that's the word I think best describes it. Oh, you got the transfer portal. You can rebuild your team in one off season. No, that's not really how this works. You start with the frontline guys and then you work your way down and you build the depth. And then when you take the field in 2 or 3 years, you look like one of those teams. Right now, this is still halfway through that process, roughly.
Right. You just hope that they've got enough of that in place to compete in more of those Big 12 games this year.
For sure. I mean, a lot of it had to start in the secondary. They were just deficient in the secondary.
That's one way of putting it.
I mean, they were short. They were squatty. They didn't have length. They didn't have speed. They didn't have anything that, like, go back. They had the best defensive backfield in the country 3 years ago.
Right.
Go look at that defensive backfield and compare it what they ran out last year.
Oh, I know.
One of these things is not like the other.
That's what's so jarring is it just happened in a matter of a couple of years, but
real quick,
it can happen, and it did to them. I mean, when you have a coaching change and other dudes leave, and it's a different system, and it just all those things have to fit, and it's so much harder to turn football around than basketball because you got so darn many positions to fill.
Well, then like a J.Q. Hardaway leaves and the kid that was committed from Michigan, Amari Snowden, like those are 2 guys that were supposed to be 6'3", 185. Like this is who we are at corner. And then the safety position you didn't really hit. They brought in 5, 6, 7 guys that were supposed to be the replacements for Cook and Wiggins and Javon Hicks and Derek Forrest, and Brian Threats hit a little bit, but not like.
Oh, he hit just usually after the whistle.
Usually after the whistle, right? It's a good call here. It's good
right
there.
He did
like they've got to get better back there. Period.
They lost Sammy Anderson too early in the year. Game 1.
He was their best corner.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just really, and they didn't have anything behind him, obviously, or at least nothing experience behind him. I think there's hope for a couple of those young guys. But yeah, that just snowballed on them.
Lots of question marks on the team, both offensively and defensively, special teams even.
I don't think there's many offensively, Aaron. Like I think offensively, we know who they are. We'll just find out if they're good. You know what I mean? Like we know what the
huge
offensive
question
line
marks.
is like. We know what the offensive line looks like. We know what running back looks like. Like Sorsby's gonna be the quarterback. We know his profile. I just say that in comparison to the defense. We don't know shit.
Well, sure. There's way more questions on the defensive side of the ball. But I think you're still curious as to what the running game looks like with the running back coach gone. Although we know who's calling the shots ultimately as far as the offense goes. I think we're curious. I'm curious as to what the wide receiver core looks like. Is the tight end room improved at this point? Behind Corey Kiner, what do we have? I don't know what we have at this point. Is it good? Maybe, but I don't know.
I'll tell you this: Evan Pryor and Chance Williams, they look good in shorts and t-shirts, shorts and jerseys.
I mean, as long as Tyler's healthy, I think he's going to be a lot of help. I really do.
I agree. I think Chance Williams is too. I think he's going to surprise some people. Like, he was one of those guys that looked like he kind of yesterday, obviously, but when you watch him run, he kind of looks like he has that like sports car kind of ability to shift in and out of gears, if that makes sense. Like, you know what it looks like when a Ford Focus shifts out of gears, and it's not pretty.
You're right.
Lamborghini, when that thing shifts out of gears, it looks a little different. Like, I got that feeling from Chance a little bit yesterday, where like he got outside on one and he was just down the field in a zip. So we'll know more in a couple weeks.
It's going to be real interesting to see this wide receiver group, because I'm I know what they have on paper, but man, I don't know. And hopefully it's much improved and we see a lot more Barry Jackson this year.
I think Tony Johnson is going to kind of be a benchmark for the improvement in the wide receiver room. If he can be that kind of number 2 with Evan pushing him, and those two can, that position was a waste last year. Yeah. Xavier Harrison was really good at the 1. They got, Smith was hot or cold. There was some hit and miss to him, but they got nothing from D. Wiggins. Nothing. That can't happen again.
Nope. And then tight end, I think, is probably the position room of most interest offensively.
Probably, yeah.
So
fortunately, you really only need 1 and maybe 2 of those guys, Aaron. Like, that's not like running back. You better make sure you got like 3 guys because of the attrition of a season, and this is a run heavy offense.
Last year too wasn't enough in the tight end room. We were going into 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Well, Singletary got hurt. Belgian was out for the entire. Injuries can change that. But I'm saying, when you get into a season, you're not. Hell, everybody bitched because they had 2 tight ends and they didn't use them enough. When you looked at the usage of tight ends, it was up there with, the best, some of the best. Like, that's what the usage looks like for tight ends. The worry is, do they have one that can kind of carry the load? Which I like. That's why I agree that it's kind of a, wide receiver 2, tight end 1, running back 2. Like those, and Sorsby obviously is number 1. If he's good, this team's going to have a chance to be okay. If he's not good, they're not. It's that simple. But behind him, those are kind of the 3 spots I think that deserve the most attention. Wide receiver 2, tight end 1, running back 2.
I think QB2 is not necessarily terribly far behind all those things, because we know what Lichty can look like. But I would hope that you have guys in that room pushing Lichty for reps. And
sure. Now, yesterday he got most of the first snaps because he's the veteran. And Sorsby was like shuffled in behind, but they were rotating. Like, there were times Samaj Jones was running with the 1s. There were times Drogosh was running with the 1s. Like, I don't think we'll really see the quarterback thing kind of come into view until like the second half of spring, probably, where they really start getting into like, here's the 1, here's the 2, the 1A, whatever. For right now, they're going to rotate guys and just kind of everybody's supposed to get this many reps. This is what we're going to get them.
Gotcha. Well, then,
I mean, I was told straight up, like defensively, don't plan on having any idea what a 2-deep looks like until we put these 3 days on tape this week. And then we go to spring break and we get to like watch everything and kind of see who looks comfortable and who doesn't and kind of adjust. And then they'll have that week when they come back where usually a Saturday practice is a scrimmage. That second week, they have a Saturday practice at the end of the week. Maybe that's the first scrimmage of the spring. They haven't said that, but that's my understanding. Yeah. And then, you know, I think after that, once they have that first scrimmage will probably be pretty telling. And then George knows practice after the scrimmage, right, brother?
Yeah.
That's when you really pay attention, the practice after the scrimmage.
Yep. No doubt about it. We'll get a much better picture then, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the spring game and all that fun stuff.
I can't
spring
wait
game
to
could
see
be
how
fun. That's all I'm going to say.
I can't wait to see how different the 2-deep looks from the spring game to fall camp.
When camp starts, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably not a ton. Once you get to the spring game, you have a decent idea. Like you're 14 practices in.
I'm curious to see what moves. We all know there's going to be moves as another transfer portal window opens up and all of that. And
yep.
It's exhausting.
Just when you thought you had it all figured out, we go and do this.
If I hadn't been so busy the past 48 hours, I would have just been doing this.
Yeah. Make flashcards, Chad. Have Kelsey run through your flashcards with you.
I'm going to put this up just real quick. Somebody's probably going to screenshot it, but like this is the start of my notes from yesterday. Those are all just numbers. Like no names with them, just me jotting numbers down of like who I might need to like, okay, who is 8? Who is 0?
Dude, I did that last year in summer camp too, when they came back in August, and it was like, holy crap. There was
Chad, you know what's gonna help is July when this video game comes out.
They're not gonna know shit. I can guarantee you that. If I don't know anything, the EA folks aren't going to know shit.
But the names and the numbers will be on the game
right.
for all the players except for Arch Manning that opted in.
No, that's fair. We're going to have to grind a lot of NCAA 25 or 24 or whatever to figure out what the roster looks like.
There's going to be a lot of downloads in August too to adjust roster. I remember the first season I was able to do that, and it was Madden, I think, and like you could it was computer then. There weren't like PlayStations and Xboxes, and you'd have to download these rosters to update them and all that stuff when things changed and trades happened, and you could do that in baseball too. It's a beautiful thing about technology. Play the current teams. Or you can do what I always do on NBA 2K or whatever it is and play the 60s and 70s All-Stars. I like having Wilt the Stilt and Oscar and all those guys.
You never cease to amaze me, George.
I'm telling you. I love playing that game with those guys.
Bengals and Reds. I know with FC Cincinnati, they did make a trade with Inter Miami. But any big news that you wanted to discuss with the Bengals or the Reds, George?
Not right now. Combine's over. Apparently, everyone's in love with offensive tackles, and the Bengals could use one. So maybe that's where they end up in that first round. We'll see. But apparently, all those tackles passed the test at the combine. Reds, they're just getting started. Nice to see Ellie unload on a 470 footer, but it's not. And he's working, to use all the fields while hitting and all that. But damn it, he's got 7 strikeouts in like 12 at bats or whatever it is. Maybe it's 16. I had that number somewhere. 7 strikeouts. Where is that? Yeah, 7 strikeouts, 6 for 16. So all but one of his outs have been strikeouts. And he's 6 for 16. So, but look, it's so early and all.
Hey,
that.
I'll take 6 for 16. Let's
Exactly.
rock and roll.
Amen to that.
Let's rock and roll, baby.
Agree. So yeah, and the pitchers have all had a good outing, and then maybe a not so good inning here or there, and that's all just getting started. But that's going to shake out in the next month too. We shall see.
Yeah, curious to see what the wide receiver market looks like for T. Higgins and whatever contract extension he's looking at. As it seems that the Justin Jefferson
that doesn't matter. He's going to be a Bengal in 2024, and he will not be a Bengal in 2025. That's my bold prediction.
That's how I think it plays out.
I hope they with everything I am. I hope they trade him.
I think they are going to make their run, or try to make their run with what they have, and give it a shot.
Thoughts on CJ returning to the Bengals, George?
Well, given that they could use a tight end or two, it might not be worth it might be worth kicking the tires on him and seeing what he wants and where he fits as far as they got payroll room, that's for sure. And I don't think he's going to cost them an arm and a leg, but are there better options out there? I don't know.
If you're going to bring in a tight end that has injury history, and you can potentially bring in for close to the NFL veteran minimum, I'd much rather see them make a move like that for a Hayden Hurst than a CJ Uzama. I think CJ Uzama is washed.
He could be. I mean, it's been a couple years since he's been here, but he had success. He had success with Joe Burrow, and I got a feeling Joe may have something to say about that. We'll see.
Time will tell on that. Anything to add on
how bad his injury stuff was? I mean, like he couldn't play at the end of the year, and I don't know what.
He had head injuries or terrible injuries.
Correct.
But again, on the NFL veteran minimum, I don't think you have much to lose if you can bring either, because he's still getting paid, I think, $6 million from Carolina, even after they cut him.
Right.
So I don't know that money's necessarily a thing. And I think he had far more success with Joe Burrow than CJ Uzama ever did.
Yeah, he's an interesting kid. I liked him. Him.
Still curious to see what happens in the Joe Mixon saga, as you potentially could be saving money if you did make a cut there. But we'll see how that shakes out as NFL free agency does start next week. So between NFL free agency and the transfer portal, there will be plenty of movement here in Cincinnati in the course of the next several weeks.
Let's get right. And then, leading up, season starts for baseball as soon as basketball ends.
Yep.
So will the
a lot to do.
DJ Reader.
And again, I think the spring game is going to be fun.
What's that?
Right.
I think the spring game is going to be fun.
Yep. I'm looking forward.
I don't have a volleyball tournament this year, so I get to be there. I'm excited.
That's good. Although the volleyball tournaments are fun too.
Yeah, they are. We're off to Gatlinburg this weekend, George.
Oh, nice. That'll be cool. Kids will like.
Well,
that.
not really. But we just spend the whole time in a gym in a city that you want to we were in Orlando for nationals last year, and we didn't get out of the gym until like 9:30, 10 o'clock every night. So, a lot to do.
So you could be doing it You could be doing it in like Nome, Alaska. It just doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. They
Right.
schedule these tournaments for cool places. At some point, I'm guaranteed that we're going to have a tournament in Vegas, and I'm going to get like 45 minutes of free time while we're there. It's inevitable.
It's funny.
George, any thoughts on the trade that FC Cincinnati did make with Inter Miami? I can't even recall.
No,
the guy's name.
I may
That
go
guy's
to,
on the national team, right? Yedlin?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there it is. Yedlin.
yeah. Apparently he's helped, but I may go to that thing on Thursday night.
With
DeAndre
Bearcats
Yedlin.
coming back.
Yeah,
That team's supposed to be like the best team in Mexico, right? Like that's their
Right.
number one team. That should be
yeah.
a fun one.
I may be trudging down there and checking that out. We'll see.
From all accounts, he is.
I'm retired.
From all accounts, Yedlin is an upgrade at a position of need for FC Cincinnati. So,
And you got to give them like a lot of credit because they, these last couple of years, they've gone out and gotten guys and
they make
done
moves.
what they can to improve the on-field product. And that's why, after struggling those first several years, I mean, it's easy to root for them because they have gotten their act together.
I agree.
Well,
they're
Top G, I do not. Well, they shouldn't have to resurface the court this year. So if they play in the NIT at home, they should be all right.
There's no grade school commencement scheduled or
That had nothing to do with it, George.
I know.
They had to resurface the floor. They don't have to resurface the floor this year. They just did it last
I
year.
didn't know it took 6 months to resurface a floor.
It takes 3 because it takes, I think, 6 weeks for the proxy or whatever before you can have traffic on it that doesn't screw with it. So it takes 3 weeks to do it all, and then 3 weeks for it to sit that nobody's allowed on it.
so much shellac.
It's a lot of shellac. George, did you hear that Mark Slaughter's not doing TV anymore? He's not working in the market anymore?
Yeah, down in Louisville. How about that? Working for the Louisville PD.
Oh, come on. I'm jabbing Mark a little bit because he has talked about it for 3 weeks. I love Mark.
Going away thing on
I didn't even get invited.
Down there. It was everywhere. He put it on Twitter, Facebook.
I was at the game. And then I didn't get home until 11 o'clock that night.
I went to the game too.
Go. I saw you and Seho up there. Well, yeah, you guys don't have to work when the game's over.
Oh yeah, we did holler down there.
You guys get to go out and party when the game's over. I have to work.
Elise went to the Mark thing before the game.
I was at UC.
I know. You could have come by at 4 o'clock.
I don't know. I was on my way to the gym at 4 o'clock.
Well, we made it in time.
Get to have fun.
We made it in time,
George.
We got up there.
Yeah, I had to do the post-game press conference, and then I had to come home and do a show with Aaron.
Well, you missed a good time, but
by the time I would have got there, you guys would have all been wasted. I would have been completely sober and really annoyed.
I only went down pregame. I didn't go back after the game.
Good call.
I'd just gotten back from Florida. We had the grandkids here and all that going on. And then since the wife watched the grandkids Saturday night, guess who had to make sure they were up by 7 to take care of these little BASTARDSs and get them fed on Sunday morning.
Grandpa George.
That's right.
Happy
Mark was
trails.
a legend. I'm sad to see him go. It was always great to see him around. Gonna miss seeing him.
Yeah,
I had to say when JT left, it was the same. I love JT. I love
right.
Mark.
Yeah, we had some.
You got lucky, man.
I mean,
you got to work with a couple good dudes that were really good at it.
God, we went from Scott Simpson and Rob Reichley to Kent Weaver and JT and Mark, and we had some good ones over the years, no doubt about it. Made my job much easier.
You look real good when your cameraman's real good and your
yeah.
produces and does all the good stuff.
Yeah. Especially
Slaughter always got the shot. Sacrificed the body a few times. Do you remember? Mark will get mad at me for telling this probably. You remember down in Louisville when he got knocked the what out?
Yes.
And we're down, and he's like, I don't think I can drive home. Like he was concussed. He got not. Was it Justin Jackson that got him? I think it was Justin Jackson that got him.
I think it was.
And
Yeah.
I mean, face after.
Oh no, I don't think he
one
even
here
knew.
Recently in the past few
That
years.
blew out his knee. Oh, another concussion?
No, he didn't get
No.
he didn't get rolled as bad there, but he got rolled a little bit. Yeah.
I remember the one down there, just like him being in the workroom, like at halftime, like wobbly. Like, Slaughter, you all right, bro?
That's
He's
bad.
like, Justin got me. I don't feel good.
It's crazy. I mean,
right now,
it's an art, like being able to get out of the way, and you're looking at that viewfinder. I mean, it's going to happen to the best of them. There's no doubt about it.
I've watched a couple guys hang in there, and literally, like, the body scrapes the lens of the camera, and you're like, man, nah, fam. If I see it coming towards me, I'm out. I'm out.
Oh
the back.
my God, yes.
I will get the next one.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I didn't shoot. I didn't have the talent.
You got to protect the investment. You had to protect the investment.
Easier to sit in a press box than be down there in the snow and ice on a football field.
You and Brad so handsome.
Oh my God, those guys would be. We'd have to go down and do post-game live stuff, and they'd be shivering. And it's like I'd get out there. Yeah, it's kind of cold out here, isn't it? It's like you have not been standing out here for 3 hours, have you? Nope.
Sure haven't.
It's brutal.
They had wings in the press box and pizza.
Oh yeah. Yes. Always. Oh, that's
some of those press boxes aren't heated though, George. Some of those high school press boxes weren't heated.
Oh, those aren't. No. NFL and college, yes.
Yeah.
Most college. There was a time when Nipper had a wooden press box that wasn't heated.
You only know that because you're old as shit.
I know. I know.
Back in the late 70s.
Man, that was unbelievable. I thought that was the greatest thing in the world, too. It was a lot of fun. They had this little hut built to the side of the press box that the student station used to do UC games. And we thought we were on top of the broadcast world, man. We loved it.
And it couldn't be heard outside of the
outside of campus. It only went through the wiring in the buildings that you could pick up this weak-ass AM signal. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Well, happy trails to Mark Slaughter. And I guess that's going to wrap up another episode of George in the Jungle. I think we actually have a standard time next week on Tuesday.
Well, we don't know, do we?
We don't know. There's going to be, whether they play on Tuesday. This opens up Tuesday.
We'll find out.
There's a real possibility. Yeah.
Be sure to check out Remington Tavern, though, at 8892 Glendale Milford Road, 45140, with their daily happy hour from 3 to 7 p.m., $5 wood for Wednesdays. Check them out on Instagram at RemyTavCincy and follow them on Facebook. But until next Tuesday, for Chad Brendel, for George Vogel, I'm Aaron Smith. We'll see you next time.